Hi, good evening, parents. My name is Teacher Andy. Thank you for joining us this evening for a uh, a quick briefing on the upcoming Maths Olympiad program that we have prepared for our students. Okay, okay. So just a quick introduction of myself. My name is Andy Kuek. Currently, I'm the head of My Stretches High Ability Growth Program. And prior to this, I was actually also the head of the Gifted Education Preparatory Program from the years 2018 to just last year. So this program, as some of the parents here might be aware, is to prepare the children to sit for the 2 rounds of the GP examinations at primary three. And previously, I also was an Ministry of Education ASEAN scholar. Okay, spelled wrong, truncated. Okay, so at any point, if parents you have any questions, feel free to type in the chat. We will answer we will answer to our best ability the questions that you may have. Okay, so just feel free to ask at any point of time. Okay. So, what is Maths Olympiad? What is Maths Olympiad competition? So, in Singapore, basically, there are three prominent competitions that most students will take part in. At the primary six level, primary five and primary six levels, uh, you have uh, there's one organized by Raffles Institution. So, it's called the acronym is RMO, Raffles Maths Olympiad. So, as you can see here on the right, some of the key dates. Registration actually has already opened, okay, from the 28th to the 25th March. And the first round, which is online, is scheduled to take place on the 9th of April, and round two invitation only sometime in May. So registration for this competition is strictly via the school. So if your child is if your child has been enrolled, that's fantastic. If your child is thinking to enroll and not too sure, I'm not too sure how how to go about it. The best way is actually to get in touch with the teacher in charge. Okay, so usually in schools they will have maths clubs, or in many cases they will, based on how children do in school, for their school mathematics examination, they will be actually selected and automatically enrolled on their behalf by the school. Okay, so please take note of this. So there is two categories for this. The open category, which is strictly for the P6 students, and also the junior category, which is open to the P4, P5 students. So for round one, the students actually take the same test, P6, P4, P5. Okay, and if they do well enough, they will get invited back to back for the invitation round. And invitation round is a on-site test. Okay, it's a paper test at Raffles Institution. So this is strictly only by invitation. And for the second round, the papers are different. Okay, a set of questions for the P6s and a different set for the juniors. Okay, so that is RMO. Next, we have another hugely popular competition, of which is not just open to students in Singapore, but also students in the ASEAN, in the Asia Pacific region. So this competition is organized by Hwa Chong Institution. Okay, so it's Asia Pacific Maths Olympiad. Uh, Registration is online. It's online. So round one will take place on 16th April. Second round will take place on 30th May. So from what I understand from the registration process, uh, again, registration online for the P6s is strictly by the school. So the school will actually collate all the students which they will be sending for the competition, and they will upload it through the system. Okay, upload through the system. So the teacher in charge will do that on the behalf of the student. So again, if your child is interested, make sure uh, your child finds out more from, let's just say, start from the class teacher and find out, if the school is historically, if the school has been sending them, that's easy. But for some schools, historically they may not be sending students for Maths Olympiad, so that will require a bit more. uh, uh, you need to clarify with the teacher how to go about with the process. So P5, it is parents can register them on their own. Okay, so according to the website, registration details has been disseminated to respective school teachers in charge, parents gateway. So parents who have access to the parents gateway, you will have been informed that you are able to register for your P5 child on your own. Okay, so this one you do not have to go through the school. Okay, so the registration starts from the 1st to the 15th February. So looking at it, uh, we are we are very close, really, 3 days away from the end of registration. First round will take place on the 18th, and again, let me just see. Okay, and also for for the Hwa Chong one, there is also an invitation round, round two, right? It's on 30th May, and this is also strictly by invitation only, for students who have done well enough. Okay, okay, so those are the key dates. The next one is also a hugely popular Maths Olympiad competition. It is open to students who are in P5. So this is organized by NUS High. So because it takes place sometime in June, July, so the website hasn't indicated the dates of which students can start to register, but this is also strictly via the school. So we will just have to wait, but it should be sometime soon. Usually it opens sometime from March to April, okay? And round one sometime in July. So at this point, uh, parents, if you have any questions, feel free to type in the chat or in the Q&A. We'll be happy to answer your questions. So uh, exactly, exactly why, exactly what are advantages of taking the Maths Olympiad competition? So personally, I've been teaching mathematics at my stretcher for the past 15 years or so. Okay, and the fact is that my stretcher, we actually started actually many years ago. In fact, in 2012, I was working with another uh, prominent Maths Olympiad, one of the pioneers in the Maths Olympiad scene in Singapore, to to curate the Maths Olympiad program. But at that time, I think the PSLE system was still a bit different, right? So it's a very intense, and many of the students would want to focus on mainstream school syllabus first. Okay, so it is strictly based on interest. But the reality is that over the years, students' ability in maths have gotten better, right? And when children get better, obviously they will need new challenges. And I think there are many, there are many well-established advantages for for taking part in this competition. First of all, first of all, if you do well, right? If you do well in such competitions, say for example the Hwa Chong one, platinum, gold, silver, is a major advantage, right? It's a major advantage when you apply through the direct school admission as part of your portfolio. Okay, so this one will be a distinct advantage, and also the fact that you have undergone some training. If you are applying DSA through uh, academic subject like maths, exposure to maths Olympiad type of question certainly will be helpful. So what is just is it maths Olympiad? Is it same as school what we learn in school? Okay, do we learn what we learn in school? So if you were to look at if you look at the website by Hwa Chong, they are very clear, right? They are very clear. So these are some of the topics that will be covered, but they don't tell you in depth unless you go through all their past year paper question and try to categorize, how relevant these questions are in the context of PSLE. You know, does your child at this point at basic level have all the knowledge learned from school to tackle this question? So the answer is definitely no, right? So there will be some overlaps, but generally, many of the questions, even if they are within the PSLE, even if it's a PLE subject, there will be additional knowledge points which children need, additional concepts which children need to be familiar with to solve these questions. And one of the distinct advantages, so as I will show you later, uh, there are some questions that bridges into secondary one, secondary two. It is not your routine algebra, right? So certain concepts, just say for example, to solve maybe a round one question on algebra, right? You will probably need to be familiar with three or four advanced algebraic concepts. If not, you will not be able to solve it. Okay, so uh, for certain topics, it is definitely uh, relevant because you learn concepts way in advance, concepts that you learn in secondary one or even secondary two. So these are the three main points which I strongly feel is relevant to students. Okay, so this is just a brief format. Okay, so it's online, to be held at the respective open at their primary school premise. So there is no need to go down to the Raffles institution. Only 20 MCQ question, same questions for open and junior categories, duration 60 minutes. So you were to divide the time, it's actually very challenging. Even for routine maths, even for routine examination, even for routine maths, right? Let's say based on school syllabus, to do 20 tough questions in 60 minutes is tough, right? Let alone, let alone maths Olympiad type of questions. So this is just a brief overview of eventually how many students will be selected into the invitation round. But I've said, I think being part of the competition, I think whether or not children eventually, first of all, is I would say that it is not easy to be invited in second round. That's first place. But that's the first point. But I think the more important thing is to get the exposure and to to get students to get students to be interested in maths because uh, what we do in the Maths Olympiad program is very different from what they do in school. So they have a different view, they have a different way of thinking about maths. Is this maths just about remembering formulas? Is it just about marking through all the questions in assessment books? Okay, so this exposure will give them will hopefully generate some interest, right? The interest of trying to solve problems in new ways, look at mathematics from a whole new perspective. Okay, so for the junior category, 15 short answer questions. Open category only seven questions. Okay, and some of the questions require children to show the working to justify the answers. And again, if you look at that, seven questions, 6 minutes, 60 minutes. So it's definitely not easy. Okay, 15 for the junior category, seven for the open category. AMOPS online, okay, 30 question, duration 2 hours. So generally, because this examination is actually open to not only to students in Singapore, but also students in other countries, right? So they will have examination location in different countries, and children will have to sit for the test uh, in their own countries. So having said that, the type of questions from the AMOPS is definitely not as difficult as those organized. It's not as difficult as those in the RMO because simply because why? First of all, uh, the number of questions you have slightly more, right? You have 10 questions more, but the amount of time you have is double. And also because Singapore has a very rigorous maths curriculum, it doesn't mean that, and it's a fact that many countries and ASEAN Pacific regions do not have as rigorous program as mathematics syllabus program as Singapore. So they will have to make sure that these questions are matched correctly. Okay, cannot be so difficult until children from other countries cannot do them at all. So round two, top 50 participants, written, held in Hwa Chong institution, 14 questions, duration 2 hours. Okay, so that's for AMOPS. For the one by NUS High, for the P5 students, it is a paper test in the school, in the students' primary school. Okay, so far they have not moved the test into online form. So it's still paper based. Children take it at the school, 35 question, 1 hour 30 minutes. And since 2024, they have done away with the invitation round. So it's strictly one round. They will assess and they will give out the certificates, okay, and awards. Okay, okay, so far no questions, okay. So what is the breakdown? I think this is one slide that will interest many parents. So if you were to take a look at the Raffles Maths Olympiad type of question, all right, up to 50% of those questions require children to be familiar with Sec 1 mathematical concepts. So not easy, huh? Sec 2, even the stretch questions towards the end that carries more marks, more weightage, can go up to concepts which children will only learn in secondary 2. Okay, and some as far as secondary 3. Those relevant to P5, P6 adds up to be 30%. Okay, but even then, these are stretch questions. It's not your routine PSLE type of question. It simply means children would have somehow seen those concepts before. Like let's say, what is the area of a circle? You will need to know the formula area of a circle, for example. Okay, AMOPS. Generally, you can see it's about 40% P5, P5, P6. Again, when we say P5, P6, we say it's a P6 question, but it can be the difficulty level can be different. It's just like primary schools, right? When the school set the paper, they have same mid-year exam, they have same end of the year exam, but that doesn't mean that all the schools have all the questions that set by the school, they are all equal in level of difficulty. So similarly for these two particular competitions. Okay, so up to secondary concepts, Sec 1, Sec 2. For NMOPS, you can see it is, yes, because at P5 level is very heavy on P5, P6, P4 syllabus. So having taught the gifted education program and having done um, the papers on NMOPS, many of the questions are manageable, I would say. Okay, you can expect some of the questions that appeared at the P3 GPA examination to be also included in this NMOPS test. So it is generally uh, more manageable. And I think for parents who are P5, so I think this is a great chance to get them interested in maths, especially if you find that your child is breezing through the school syllabus. Okay, because school syllabus nowadays, no matter how challenging we make it to be, is still based on school syllabus. Okay, there's nothing that children will need to really think out of the box to solve those questions. All you need to do is just having done those questions before, those difficult type of questions before, and because those variations are very few, right? Very few variations to that. So that makes it too routine, too routine, and is and in terms of fun, it's not so fun because you just keep doing it the same thing, right? You really know this type of question, you need to do these steps. Okay, it's just a matter of doing well in examination. That's all. Okay, so Maths Olympiad has the other aspect of uh, encouraging students to be interested in the subject. You have to pick their interest. So if you were to look at some of the detail, okay, I will not go into much detail, but just to give parents an idea, right? Okay, is it opening? Let me see. Okay, I'll come back to this later. I have a slide actually to, okay, maybe I'll just quickly stop sharing. I'll bring out another document. So this is just to give parents a general idea. If you look at the set of questions from RMO, from APMOPS, what what type of questions are they testing, are children tested on? What are the topics? Okay. Um, so if you look at this, okay, so let me just see. Okay, parents are looking inside. Okay, good. So if you were to look at this, right? 20 question RMO. Column 2 indicates which level this question is pegged at and how relevant is it in the MOE context. Okay, a law of indices, algebraic law. So these are strictly secondary concepts. Okay. Then of course you have things which children are familiar, patterns, counting. So these are different heuristic methods. Okay, and averages, factors. These are all ratio rates. So these are concepts that children have already learned. Okay, but again, as to how difficult those are, uh, it depends, right? Some concepts you really need to be familiar with upper secondary, with lower secondary type of concepts to help you solve them. So it's a range of skills and and a range of knowledge points that children need to be familiar with in order to attack the problems. So as you can see, the last column, the second to last, is it relevant to PSLE? Yes, high-end PSLE, lower secondary, strictly Olympiad. You will never see in any PSLE question. So uh, last few all very difficult, all through an Olympiad type of question. Okay, so this is for Raffles. Raffles. Let me just quickly show the others. Parents, just bear with me. I'll just stop share for a while. Let me just bring up the other document. Okay, just a moment. Just about to open the other document. Okay, okay, while waiting for the document to open, I'll just quickly answer a few questions. Uh, okay, is NMOS tough? Oh, Raffles is definitely the toughest. That one, no question about it. And in fact, NMOS is for P5. Okay, it's not for P6. So just by going by the level is easier. Okay, and I think if you ask me, my personal opinion is that if you want kids to enjoy the of course some kids are naturally very competitive, right? But you just want the kids to challenge themselves, and have a go at it, and at the same time not to pressure themselves much. I think NOMS is a great company to take part in if your child is in P5 currently. Because why? Imagine if you do every question you cannot solve, you'll be very, it's not going to be fun, right? But if you can solve a number of them because it looks familiar, right? It's a stretch type of questions, and especially if your kids, some of you, if your kids in the GP, you know, right? These are probably many. I would say that there's a good percentage of the question that they would have they could manage it on their own. Okay, so that makes it more fun, right? That you can solve some of the questions. Uh, P6 NUS, okay, I'll think that definitely yes, right? So you see, for NUS High, they are very specific. So I have students from NUS High, and Science Olympiad training at the secondary level, Maths Olympiad training at the secondary is compulsory. It's not even optional. So once they are in secondary school, they automatically have fixed Maths Olympiad classes, right? Fixed Maths Olympiad classes, and 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 competition is a main part of their it's a main is one of the things that they focus very much on in NUS High. Okay, but of course, not everybody have the same interest in a particular subject. Not everybody have the same ability in the same subject. So over time, children who perform better or show more interest in the Math Olympiad training program or in the Science Olympiad training program, they will get to decide, okay, whether or not I want to continue with the maths, or I just want to focus on science, or I even want to do both. Even then, within the same Olympiad program, at NUS High, they have accelerated programs. So it means that these children are really ready to go. These are the guys who are aiming for the top results. This cohort is actually very good at what they do, and they're actually aiming for top scores in any competitions. And also, they are the the class that is slower pace. Okay, that is just to make sure uh, they cater to children who may not be that competitive, or may not have that in-depth ability in maths, but still they want to nurture their interest in maths. So in fact, my student now he's actually majoring in sciences, on an NIE scholarship, and he's currently majoring in biology and chemistry, and his interest was actually nurtured when he was in NUS High, right? Or you will realize, oh, that's actually that's really what science is about. They don't just confine their learning to the school syllabus, right? They will learn, they will learn even university level type of concepts. Even now, he will just share with me, hey, Mr. Kuek, actually when I go to university year one, year two, many of the things we learn in the university, actually we learned it before, because they were trained in science, maths, Olympiad. So you can see the training actually be best. It has many benefits lah. Okay, even way into the future. No, no. For as far as I know, generally, if you okay, basically to go through DSA maths, basically is very selective. So because maths is generally not so difficult for many students, there are more students who are good in maths than any other subjects, right? And when it comes to languages, English and maths, there are fewer students who have natural ability in those. So when you apply to maths, uh, the path, obviously anything that supports your profile will give you a distinct advantage, right? Because at the end of the day, they can only invite that many students to take part in the examination, and they have to be selective. So imagine if your child has done well in the RMO and the AMOPS, and historically he has been taking part in all sorts of maths Olympic competitions, it will have a distinct advantage. Okay, subject specific, right? Subject specific. Okay. Okay, how do we apply for the NUS DSA? I think at this point, maybe I can share with you that we will have this series of talks, right? Closer to date, and we have at my structure, I can guarantee you we have many teachers who are experts, in helping children get in DSA. In particular, I think for parents who have my students at my structure, or even students who have been at my structure before in non-secondary school, you probably be familiar with Mr. Alvin Quack, right? Because he has been sharing DSA strategies for as far as I know, for as far as I've been in my strategy, he has been doing that, and I would say he's been very successful in helping, advising parents, advising students the right decision, the right strategy that they can adopt depending on their ability and depending on the school of their interest. What strategy should adopt when applying to DSA. Okay. Okay, we come back to that later. So I will not bore parents with too much details. I'll just go on to the important information. So suffice to say, okay, just a quick one. Currently, we have 10 sessions, 2 hours each. But we are planning more online questions, supplementary sessions. Okay. So just something that will interest parents. Okay, exactly what is Maths Olympiad? So as you know, it's just very much like physical Olympics, right? When you join Olympics sports, you need to train. You don't train, there's no way you can make it. So same thing. But is this about rote learning? Definitely no, right? So so first of all, it is strategy. You look at the question, you need to know the strategy. And what is a strategy? You cannot use brute force. Whatever knowledge, whatever formulas you can cram in your head, you brute force calculation. No, because it is not meant for you to calculate. Even if you have a calculator at hand, right? 3 minutes a question, I can tell you, you will not be able to press fast enough to get you the answer anyway, right? So from that alone, you know that even you know all the formula, it's not going to help. So it's about strategy. So what do we mean by strategy? I'll give you some examples later, right? If you look at a problem, you need to try to recognize, is there a pattern? So the whole idea about maths Olympiad type of questions is that they are not meant to be calculated down to the exact numbers, right? There's always a shortcut. There's always a way to recognize pattern. And after that, you break down into simplifying the whole problem. Then you can attack it with your basic mathematical knowledge, like what's the area of a circle. But first, you need to be able to break it down into smaller parts. Then after that, you can start to solve the small parts by using knowledge we have already known. So the whole idea here is to get students to see problems in a different way. So if you find yourself calculating down to the last number, then you know you're on the wrong track already. Okay, because there is always a pattern to solve the question quickly. And if you ask me, it's just a matter of exposure. Okay, you do it one time, you never seen it before. You do it another time, you never see it before. 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, you probably learn to recognize the pattern. If it's an algebraic type of question, what type of patterns should we be looking at? Okay. Then same thing, right? Geometry, as you know, in some years PSLE, there are some killer questions on areas, and simply because children have not seen how to dissect, how to rotate, or how to remap the whole image, right? So these are some of the questions which I think are totally relevant in the PSLE concept. So the key thing, another key point here, number three, is simplification. So no matter what question, there's always ways. Of course, there are some questions that logical reasoning, no need to simplify. Okay, if you have a logical mind, you can reason it out. But many of the calculation type of question requires you to simplify it. Okay, you see a pattern, simplify it, then you go on to solve it with the formulas that we really know. So another another more specific term which often used in math Olympic curriculum is this idea of telescoping, right? Telescope, you can actually extend it to see if you want to use it, just extend it, right? And you can actually fold it in if not using it. So it's the same thing, right? It's just another way of simplification. Okay. So what it mean, I will show you an example of it. So, but it pays to understand these ideas ideas exist. So when they look at the question, they straight away think, hey, is there some way I can pair them up to simplify the question? So that I can cancel out some of the calculation on its own. So this is what we mean. So as long as they're exposed to this idea called telescoping, many a times they will try to think, hey, is there a way to simplify the equation? Okay. And of course, there are some general, more reasoning type of concepts, right? Uh, Worst case scenario, optimization, things like that. Okay. So very clearly, Mass Olympiad is strategy. Strategy. There's no way you can do it just by going through memorization. It's strictly non-routine. Okay. So again, if you really know all the different concepts, right? As far as we can, as far as we could, we'll try to expose children to different type of questions so that, hopefully some of the patterns become familiar to them in times of competition. Okay. So I think, like, for example, like even a PSLE math. So sometimes you just use a formula. They don't because they just want to solve the question quickly, right? But I think Maths Olympiad let's say I just do it leisurely. Okay, it starts to interest you. Okay, I know this step, but why is this step? Why is this calculation? I can give you a formula. I can give you an algebraic formula. Let's say difference of square. Then in your head you think, hey, why is this a fact? Why do they say that this is a formula for? How do we prove it? Because if you already solving a different question, you want to be convinced that this formula is given to you is based on something that you already know. So I think it gives a student opportunity to actually go more in depth of some of the formulas that have already been taught in school. Okay. So again, it teaches you how to connect the dots. Okay. And I think for children who are always trying to solve challenging questions, I think this is something that is suitable for them. So these are just some general solving strategy. You understand it, you devise a plan, execute the plan, look back and check. But really, to summarize, it's just to know, to be exposed, and to do it repeatedly. Okay. So one key point is always simplify the problem. Okay. Often, even at the GP level, there are some questions which children immediately, intuitively, they will know how to calculate. But there's always a small trap, right? So they will assume, let's say if I count, if I ask them to count 1 to 10, right? How many numbers are there 1 to 10? They will definitely know is 1 to 10, right? Then you ask you how many numbers are there 2 to 10? They'll tell you 8 because why? They will try to subtract, right? But they don't do it for 1 because start from 1 is 1 to 10 is 10. But 2 to 10 is actually 9 numbers because you're just omitting 1. But that's a very common problem, right? So we often, even at that level of primary 3, we tell children, oh, what you need to do is just to prove to yourself, narrow down the range so that you can count it manually. Then you can convince yourself it's 10 minus 2, 8, but you count the real numbers, they are 9. Okay, which is why you take the biggest minus the smallest, you have the plus 1. Okay, now of course, some of these questions, especially the geometry questions on geometry, requires children to visualize. Okay, and this I think is useful. Is useful, especially in a PSLE context. Okay, okay, so so if you look at the AMOPS uh, category, all right, uh, they will have these topics. Okay, but as to how difficult it is only when you get to try those questions, then you can roughly know, right? So what do we do over the next 10 weeks? Because exam is just around the corner, April. So if you work backwards, we have really just about 10 weeks. Even then, we have to squeeze some of the lessons. Although the lesson starts this Sunday, there will be some lessons that we need to squeeze it in the evening on other days so that we can complete the syllabus. But that is only for the physical lesson. Um, we will we have scheduled a time for online revision, which means that we will just give up the worksheets for students, and is and I would say if you're interested, you do. We'll go through the answers review online. You can review the answers review online. Okay, but it's not to be treated as an oh I need to do is a homework kind of thing. No, it is something that we encourage you to do, and the more you do, uh, the concepts become more familiar to you within this short runway that we have. Okay. So for this session, we have 10 sessions, 2 hours classroom lessons. It commences this Sunday, 9 a.m., 9 to 11, 2 hours. Okay. So there will also be 10 sessions online, practice review sessions. So these sessions, tentatively, we have also planned for the dates. Uh, but again, uh, the physical classes are fixed, okay, because we need to reserve a room. So for the online sessions, can we do more sessions, alternate timings? That is something possible that I can definitely discuss with students along the way. But we have also allocated time for that. Okay, just know that apart from the 10 physical lessons, there will be at least 10 more sessions online. Okay, of which children will be given some work, then they can review, they can do it at home, then review the answers together. So for this program over the next 10 weeks is only at $550, inclusive of GST. For parents who have been sending students to my church, you will realize that this fee is actually not, I would say, is reasonable, right? Because it's almost comparable to any other courses that we have at my stretcher. So the reason why we do this is very clear, because as I as I've taught students from 10, 15 years ago at my stretcher up to now, their ability is getting higher and higher. And the fact is that the irony is that as their ability gets higher, the schools, the ministry decides, to in a way do away with exams. And then how do you measure how good your child is? How what is the avenue for children to learn more, to get interested in something that is that they're capable of learning, right? So Math Olympiad questions have already been relevant 10 to 15 years ago. It should be more relevant now than before. So as we receive feedback from parents, oh, is there such a program? Is there such a program? Because simply some kids already mastered the, the school syllabus really. It's a fact. Many of them could have already mastered. Then what's next for them? So this program, first of all, is to help children at least mentally prepared when they take the exam or what to expect. Okay, that's number one. Number two is to generate their interest. Okay, if I'm interested in maths, instead of spending the time, doing, say for example, spending time, screen time, a lot of screen time, then myself is take some time to learn something more, especially if you think you're good and interested in maths. Okay, and of course, as part of the curriculum, we also try to make it relevant to them. We're not going to share with you some concept is totally abstract to them, and it becomes meaningless. It's just another paper test that you're trying to strive for. Anyway, we try to make it interesting in the way we deliver the lessons, so that it pique their interest. Say for example, do you know how this formula comes about? Is it related to something you have learned before? Get them to think a bit further. Okay, so as you can see, the price is just to encourage parents and students to sign up. Okay, so your child could be in, because this one is actually uh, uh, open for P5 and P6 students. So feel free, if you're a P5 student, feel free to also register if you're interested. Okay, so this is just the broad topics that we'll be going through. Okay, and these are important topics. Why do we start with algebra? Because this is actually the more advanced concepts, right? So one question will require two, three knowledge points. So what we will do is that, for example, I'll just quickly show what it entails. So what we want to do is that we also need to be strategic with our curriculum, right? We don't want to make it just throw in all the secondary concepts. Then what do we do? How do we apply them? How relevant is it? So that's something that we spend a lot of time on, right? Analyzing the questions, analyzing the different concepts they're already familiar with, and try to put together something that can be useful for them, right? Competition comes up fine. Some of the concepts may not come out. That some new concepts may come out that's not covered. But I think more importantly is to try to cover as many uh, points as possible within the time that we have. Okay, so I just quickly share with you how the worksheet will roughly look like. Okay, so for parents, I'll be the main trainer for the Maths Olympiad program. Okay, so because I've been working at my teacher for 10 years, I've been working on curriculum for the longest time. The easiest part is always to create difficult questions, because difficult questions easy to create, you know. But the intention is never to create the most difficult question. The best type of question is that questions that can help children understand some concepts better, right? We start with the more basic questions, we build on their basic knowledge, then we can expand to more difficult questions. Okay, it's not never to throw them the difficult question and not knowing how they're going to start. So the way we look at this program is that looking at some type of questions, we know you need a strategy. But before you devise a strategy, you need to know some concepts, right? So this concept number one is very simple. This one is even at GP primary 3, we do that. Okay. So this simply means if you look at this operator, what does it mean? So this is just an introduction to algebra, right? Algebra. So this is formula. So you replace the variables with the numbers. So you can imagine, even at the primary 3, there are some students, they're very intuitive. They look at it, they know what to do already. But some children find it very hard to understand. Even you wait with them this question for an hour, they still very puzzled. Teacher, how did the phi arrive here? Some students they can map straight away A and A, B and B. So you can see, so this is exactly what we're trying to do. For children who have the ability to recognize certain patterns, naturally learning new concepts will build their interest even further. Okay, knowledge and interest. And this is actually difference of two squares. So this is hugely popular. So this goes by formula. Again, and we say, first of all, children are familiar with square numbers, right? And we tell them a square minus b square is actually a minus b times a plus b. Then they ask you, teacher, why? Right? The next question is why? You memorize this is not good enough. I mean, it's useful because it's a shortcut, But the next question we want to ask children, do you know why? Do you know why? Then after that, we can start to work with some numbers, some square numbers which they're familiar with to prove for themselves, right? So we're not just going to give them a formula, but as much as we can, we want to expand their interest, right? How things came to being in the first place. And of course, knowing the concept, if you look at something is square and square, it comes to exam, you know already. Okay, can I simplify it by using this formula? Okay, because if you look at this question, how is it possible for children to still possible? You can 52 times 52 minus 48 times 48. Okay, some children still can do it anyway. Okay, but again, if you really know this formula, that's even easier, right? You break it into a pair, two pairs, one minus one, one plus times straight away. Okay, so this is what we're talking about. So without knowing this concept of difference of two squares, they will never be able to come to this anyway, right? They will never be able to come to this. They will start to punch the numbers really. Okay, so this is what we mean by being familiar with some of the strategies here. Simplification. So we also introduce to them how do we come up with these concepts? First of all, how do we come up with the concept? So we look at the curriculum, algebraic question, round one, RMO, AMOPS. What are questions come up? And and are there certain concepts which they need to know to solve this question? Common knowledge, common concept. Yes, they are. Are they like for example, different of two squares, right? This is something they can use on both sides. Are they algebraic type of questions that is more specific to Raffles? They are. So as long as we see these questions, and it's something that is within, I think something is helpful for the children, and within the time frame, we will want to put these concepts into the worksheet. Okay, so that's how we come up with the concept. It's not random. It's basically based on the type of questions that we have seen, and based on the type of concept they will need to be familiar to solve those questions. Okay, so in some ways, it's also very specific to competition type of questions. Okay, very specific. It's not like your random textbook you open chapter one, chapter two, chapter three, and you do not know which one is useful. Okay. Then we also give examples, telescoping sum, uh, right? So this is just an easy example, right? So even students may not understand, teacher, what is one times two, one times two times, why can we cancel? Right? Children may not be even familiar, right? At this level, B5. Let's say what is half times half? Half times half is actually one quarter. But why? So these are some of the things that we probably still need to go into to clarify some of these concepts with students. So it will be benefit, right? Because we still have to go back to explaining things which are not familiar to them. Okay. So addition, we can telescope, right? Again, why? So this one is actually you can be proven mathematically lah, because at the end of the day, this is nothing but same denominator, right? We know you want to add or minus a fraction, you need to have the same denominator. So this is actually derived from the fact that, but again, when children look at, hey teacher, what is this? Memorize by heart? No, then we have to explain through real life example how to get to this formula. So I think by doing this also, things start to make sense to them. Why do we have to do this? Right? Why is this? Okay. Simultaneous equation. So this is something that we already do at the GEP level, primary three. But this is again introduction to uh, algebra. We have some other more advanced concept, as you can see. So powers. Okay. Now you're familiar with power of two, right? Square numbers. What is power of three? Power of four. It means that the same number multiplied by four times, right? What if I have a number with a certain power, and I put it in bracket and power it? What does it mean? So it simply means this, but you have to add the powers or the indices, right? Again, children, memorizing is not fun. Memorizing is not fun. It's hard to memorize. But once you understand why, then it becomes easy, right? So let's say you have two square, right? Two square, you bracket two square. Imagine you two square, right? Then you put a bracket around it. Then outside there's another power of three. So what it means is that two square, right? Two square, right? You have three set of two square. Agree or not? Two set of two square, which means what? Two set of two square means you have uh okay, let's say two square, right? Bracket three. So you have three sets of two square. So you end up with six sets of 6 sets of it. That's it. Okay. Yeah. So through this explanation with real numbers, children understand, oh, actually this now it makes sense. Okay. So Olympiad type of questions, what is this, right? So if they know how to convert this 8 into 2 square, right? Then they will see the pattern. Again, this is what we mean by strategy. If you see 8 and 4, you will know these are all multiples of 2, right? So if you were to break this down into uh, 2 to the power of 3 bracket 5 and 2 to the power of 2, 7, then then you will need this concept of adding power to help it power through the answer already, right? So you just have the 2 times 15 times 2 times 14. Then after that, times again, you just add. Then you know it's 29. So again, this demonstrates uh, strategy. Yeah. But again, if you do not know this, you will not be able to think about this, right? This concept useful definitely all the way to secondary. Okay. And again, P5, P6 students capable of understanding this concept, very obvious they do. They just have never seen it, people calculating this way. If you ask them to break this down, even break down the real numbers, they will also know how to do it. Then it start to make sense. Oh, actually this one, oh, math so powerful. Actually, this is what it means. Okay. Just that whatever they see is in the current simple form. They have not seen it represented in any other form. Okay, so this is a strategy to simplify. So the sixth concept is polynomial expansion. Those This one is secondary stuff, right? A plus B plus times C plus D. You can prove it using whole numbers. Okay, you can prove it using whole numbers. So this is extremely useful. We will have examples to demonstrate that. Okay, and again, if you were to, this is just a matter of simplification, just to get them through the basis, uh, how to simplify it. Okay, because at this level, P5, P6, they will not have. If those have done it, it's probably on their own, definitely not in school, right? So we need to also help them understand through the more basic examples. Okay, not too complicated, because example is too deep, too complicated. It cannot bring out the essence, right? It cannot be too simple. It's too simple, they don't think it's meaningful. It cannot be too difficult. Too difficult, they cannot apply this this particular concept to the question, to the example. So it must be somewhere in between. Difficult enough so that they appreciate the usefulness of it. Easy enough for them to understand the fundamental mathematical concept and of which they can try to prove it on their own based on the knowledge which they have. And I think through that it builds their appreciation and build their confidence in what they have already known. Okay. Uh okay, so that's polynomial expansion. Then we have some very advanced concepts, right? Towards the end, we have some various very advanced concepts. Say, for example, straight away in our mind, we already know, yeah, 2023, 2004, 2005, 2006. There must be something that is, there must be, there must be, there is a pattern, right? Now the question is, so what, right? Or running years, 2023, 2004, 2005, so what, right? How do you deal with this? Do I power this up, brute force, calculate, square it, brute force and find the answer. Again, if your math Olympiad question, if you try to brute force it, you certainly know you're not on the right track, right? So now this concept called algebraic substitution. Anything that's similar, we can replace it with a generic term. So say this is x, okay? So now it looks less scary. We change everything into x, right? So 2023 is x, 2024 is x plus 1, 2024, okay? Then the second part, we also all change to x. Now you realize from the scary numbers, now it becomes an algebraic expression. Easier to see, we have figured out, can we break it down further? Can we apply some of the algebraic concepts that we have learned or been exposed to attack further this question, right? So this level one simplification done. Then, then of course, uh, again, like I said, that this is a matter of doing as many type of questions as possible, right? So idea of grouping, right? So what do? We group the x with the x plus 3, right? So it becomes x squared, right? So Why do we do that? Because we want to get as many similar terms as possible, right? Many similar terms as possible, because why? You will see at this step here. Because you can see, it's not so easy. Because you substitute x with the numbers, you get everything in x. But there's a double layer means what? So you see, if children are not exposed to this concept, you can do it again to simplify it again using the first concept. So you see, now I see uh, this appears on both sides, right? Then I say, hey, can I simplify it further by representing as u? So you realize that you can simplify already, right? All the way to this and all the way to this, right? And you break this down through expansion is u square plus is the same, right? So you realize that this plus and this minus eventually ends up with a zero. Can we tell the answer is zero right at the start? You cannot tell. But as I said, this is uh, if students start to think about problem this way, I think things become interesting. They start to be creative, you know, just that they need to expose to this mathematical process. Okay, first substitution is common, but second substitution is not so common, right? Because they think, hey, is it limited? So technically, you can go on and on, okay, until you see a simplified pattern. So it's also through these questions, examples, we try to pick the children's interest, right? We're not just going to come up with examples and examples and examples that they find meaningless and cannot relate to and difficult. So as much as we can do, that's what we try to do with our program. Okay. So I hope parents here have at least some idea how we're going to run our program. And later we'll be helping with DSA. So I can assure you, we have many DSA experts. Okay. And often I refer them to the experts at my stretcher. So for me, primarily, for the last 10 years, my focus was actually uh, helping children to get into the GP program. So okay, I'm very open also. For some of the parents here also may have children who attended my program. So we have a reasonably good track record in guiding. So that is my expertise, which I'm trying to translate now into a higher level, because MOE has done with the P3 GEP already. So I want to spend my time focusing on the high ability group for children who are upper primary now. But having said that, this program is not your. It doesn't mean that your child must be very good in maths, very interested in maths. It just needs to be interested, right? Just interested to know what is it, how is it. Even you take time to solve it, fine. As long as I get some concept, just open up their minds. Okay. So DSA, we leave it for another time. Keep updated through our Telegram, keep updated through our webpage, and you will definitely find there are very specific webinars you will find definitely very helpful in helping your children through the DSA. Will there be other time slots? So basically, so sorry, because currently my time is okay. First of all, we don't have that long run. So my time is also I have other classes which I have to teach, and I think this is a new program which I personally want to I want to teach it, right? I want to teach it. So currently, the only time I have is actually on the Sunday. Okay, uh, for the physical ones, right? So the next question is that what, because there are also some requests for online, but I I would feel okay, physical is always number one, is more useful. Why? Because I can see the child, I can see how they think through, I can ask them very specific questions. The engagement is firstly totally different, right? It's totally different. So first of all, we don't have an online version. It's only for review of additional questions. So that's number one. Do you have other sessions currently? I'm very sorry, we don't have any other physical slots lah, right? Other than the 9 o'clock, which we have planned out, because this is our first time running it. So we yeah. So we don't have uh we only have a small group of us involved with just me and another, maybe one another a person to help me, you know uh on some of the administrative and things like that, but just very small team, huh? So physical class, because currently we have a combined class. We have those of you who are familiar with my structure central campus, we have this room two separate classroom which can combine to one. So it's like you can sit up to 20 to 20 plus students. Okay. So again, as I said, some parents may be concerned. Is it student ratio too many? Again, I would say, I think the way we think about this course should uh, I think it's more of uh, I think it's first of all, uh, we also strongly encourage, you just want to try on your own, right? Then we share with you some ideas, then we can openly discuss. There will be some group work. So I think the whole concept of running this course is going to be quite different, right? It's not going to be similar to your rote learning that I make you memorize, make you do question. If you cannot understand, just memorize. Okay, it's more of conducting in a way that can generate the interest. So I think in terms of student teacher ratio, it also depends very much on the experience of the teacher lah, huh? And I think this is the reason why I'll be running this course personally. So in my personal view, 1 to 20, again, it's not overwhelming lah, huh? It's not overwhelming because we have conducted many successful uh, trainings for very specialized courses for even bigger group of students and achieving the same kind of result that we hoping for. Will it be available online? Currently, no. But as I said, we will still be collecting this because in my mind, I'm not too sure how would it be online or how is it useful as it is now being physical. So you can continue to submit your interest, right? And if there is enough interest, we will certainly relook at some of our resources allocation and see how we can provision for that as well. Okay. So anyway, this is not the first request I received. My colleague Xue Yi has also been receiving one or two. So I'll leave here my number. So if you have any request for online, you just also can text me, and I can see how we can work through it. If not, as I've said, we are more than happy to provide any resource in any form if it helps your child get some interest. Okay, it could be in another form. All right. In my mind, the easiest if you go digital recorded, but again, you will not get the same kind of engagement. But of course, is it priced the same? That's something certainly we will need to consider as well. So it's not cast in stone. We are open to any, as there's more requests, then we can certainly think about how we can run it effectively in another form. Okay. Compass one, yes, so sorry. Compass one, I only teach lower primary currently. Okay. I'm so sorry, parents, because currently because this program is new, it's not rolled out to other centers, and it's only personally I'm involved, so I have to apologize. But just continue to raise your interest, personally to me or through my colleague, and we will on the run see how it goes. If we need a short time course, a sprint course, or whatever it takes, we can definitely consider. Okay, we won't say no to all requests, but we have to certainly plan for it. Okay, so this is something that I want to assure you. So okay, so that is all I have for parents tonight. uh Please continue to show our interest. Shui, we also have shared the registration link. So before I go, maybe roughly how many parents here you think you'll be interested and be able to? It's not pressure because I'm also very excited to get the course started. You see, so currently I think we have a handful. We have about 7 to 8 students. So I'm looking forward to have this group, to learn something together. Oh, okay. Thank you so much. Wait, now let me see. Quite a handful. Okay. Okay, can. So we will leave you with the registration link. Any questions, I've given you my number. Feel free to text me. Okay? Feel free to text me. I'll be more than happy to answer some of the questions, be it MO related or be it anything with regards, the helping your child. I'll be more than happy to answer the question if I know. If not, I'll refer you to some of the other experts that we have in different domains. Uh, Switching to other timing is because currently, again, 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 because we have different requests coming in, also we need to see how many requests, and if there's overlapping timing that is more suitable for the rest, then we can consider. So if you have any very specific request, you can text me directly, so I can just put it together and see where we are, as in terms of the number of interest, and as far as we can see how we can accommodate. Again, like I said, if it's not the physical one, can we do something for the children to get them interested, or at least if they're already been signed up by the school, how can we help them further? Okay, so this is also something that we really want to do for the students. Okay, be it a current mind strategy student or be it a non-mind strategy student, which is also why the price is similar, right? There's no distinction. Okay. So parents, if you have no more questions, I will not hold you back any further. I hope today I've gotten many of you interested, because even this is my second presentation, and I feel that I'm already more excited, than the first one, because we already have been working through refining our worksheets and concepts, how we're going to deliver them, and how we think that it can benefit and interest your child further, in their journey, in their learning journey. Okay. So everyone, thank you so much. Have a good night. Looking forward to seeing some of you at our course this weekend. Okay, Simon, continue to text me, right? I will collate this with our colleague. If there's sufficient interest, sufficient overlapping, or there's a way that we can align those timings, we will definitely consider. Okay, because it is also a very strict directive for us to expand, to provide, to make this course as accessible to as many students as possible. So that is also our number one priority. Okay, it's not meant to be exclusive, it's not meant to be restrictive, it's meant to be as inclusive as possible in whatever forms that we can think of. So currently we have only this form, but let the interest stream in, so that we can try to align them and see how we can propose something that we think may be more suitable, okay, for those who are who are not able to meet the current timings now. Okay. Okay. Okay, so remember to can text me. My number is given. If not, I'll just type in here again. Teacher Andy 83234625. Okay, good night, everyone. 83234625. Okay. So if there's no further, thank you so much, Yue.